Welcome back. The school's over now with the podcast, and I am here, and I just want to talk about this. That we are here right now with Maya Elious, and if you do not know who she is the one that is the brand strategist helping women package and sell their expertise. You've been featured in so many articles from Inc., Forbes, Huffington Post, and Black Enterprise. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Maya to the show.
Thank you. What's up? What's up?
I'm excited for this one. So like we go way back, guys. prior to getting to where we are today, almost about a decade ago, we were throwing some crazy parties, and I hired Maya as the photographer. Do you remember that?
I remember that, which is just so hilarious that's kind of how we started.
Yeah, it was so crazy about it. It is so funny because you took such good photos even back then, guys, that party kept going on for 7 years.
Yes. So Shawn was one of my clients. He used to pay me. So when I had money in my pocket, Shawn was definitely contributing to my bills. I appreciate it.
Oh, always. So for those people that are listening right now, trying to find out about you, I noticed it didn't happen overnight. So can you kind of take me back to the beginning, you as a child growing up?
As a child, though, okay, let's see here. I kind of lived everywhere. I was born in Alabama, moved to Atlanta, lived in Philly, Pittsburgh, Charlotte, because my parents moved around a lot. So I am first generation American. My parents are from Liberia, West Africa. So I've always been in a really strict household. I think that's where my discipline comes from, because my parents came to this country in their early 20s, which now that I'm 28, it's crazy to think about, because I can't even imagine myself at 23 doing anything as drastic as getting married and moving to a different country, because I'm still trying to figure out life as an adult. So yeah, it's crazy to think about. But yeah, that's a little bit of my family history and why I feel like I'm really disciplined, because of my father and my parents in general. And then I've always been really fascinated in technology. My dad's always been into technology. So when computers were starting to get more new and internet was coming out, I used to play on the internet all the time. And then in high school, I used to always mess around on Black Planet and MySpace. Those are the two social media accounts that I used to play around on. And I used to custom code it and make it pretty and have little words and stuff flying across the screen in all of my photos. So that's actually how I got into branding. I loved making things look cool online. I loved positioning myself as somebody who was cool or low key famous. And I was learning about branding before I even really knew what branding was. So that's how I kind of got into that space, by just playing around on the internet and, custom coding my MySpace and my Black Planet page.
Oh, that's crazy. So MySpace, and for those of you who are listening, because I know there's a lot of millennials that listen to this podcast, MySpace was a site where your first friend was Tom, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, Tom.
So as you're creating these MySpace sites, when did you knew that it was gaining traction, that people were interested on how you were creating the layouts that you were doing?
So I actually, my first year in college, I was going to a community college in Charlotte, and some dude asked me if I knew how to custom code MySpace pages. And I said yes, and he offered me money for it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can get paid doing something that I'm already doing for fun. So once he paid me, I just started charging. That's how I look at business. If one person is willing to pay me, there's got to be other people that are willing to pay me. So that's how I started doing that. And that was my hustle for a minute.
Yeah, that's so real. And I think just dropped a low key gem, because when you're doing something that you think is fun, and when you get that first client, it's almost like a rush. It's you know what? I already was enjoying doing this, and now you're paying me to do this. So, okay, now I know what my price should start at.
Right, exactly. And honestly, I think I'm really fortunate that somebody came to me and offered me money, because it kind of took away that fear of me asking for money, because it's no, there's people out here offering me money. So I love that. And I even try to do that now in my life. When I see somebody who's kind of new into something, but I know that they're skilled, I like to offer people money, because I'm there's just something about your confidence level that goes up as a creative when somebody is willing to pay you for your talents.
Oh, by far. And then also you feel it's more of a liability, and it's more of a reason and why you should give it your best foot forward, because you're not doing it for free. And when you put your name on top of it, you want to make sure that you got that stamp of approval. 100% agree.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what advice, like as you go through MySpace, right? MySpace is bumping, Black Planet is bumping. Like when was it like, okay, you know what? I'm going to transition out of this and try something else.
Oh my gosh. So there were two things that I transitioned to. Since I was at the community college, I took a photography class, and then I started shooting photography. I'm like, yeah, doing photography and doing MySpace or websites go well together. And because I was custom coding my MySpace page, I figured if I can custom code a MySpace page, I'm sure I can make a website. So I started telling people I was a web designer, even though I had never designed a website ever in my life. And then somebody paid me money to make a website, and I'm like, okay, let me go on YouTube and figure this out. Wow. So I started shooting photography and making websites. So for me, everything was like, I can learn anything. There's nothing I can't learn. And if I want to make money from it, I'm going to either take the class or I'm going to go on YouTube and figure it out. And then I'm going to put a price point to it.
No, that's so real. So like you're saying before you had even created your product, you was already pitching it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I call that pre-selling.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So like somebody right now has a product like they haven't done. Like what advice would you give somebody right now that has a product they want to launch, but they haven't created it? How would they pitch that?
You got to just pitch the result, because they don't have to really see the physical or the tangible yet. But if you know that you can deliver on the promise, you really got to just sell the promise. You got to sell the result. What's on the other side of the photos? What's on the other side of the website? What's on the other side of the new dress you're going to design for them? Like, just sell them the dream that comes with the product.
Man, that's real. Like, and even for me, like when I very first started kicking off the podcast, we're well over almost 40 episodes now. And in the beginning, we were pitching ourselves to all these high caliber guests that we eventually landed. But to your point, at that time, we had nobody that had done X, Y, and Z, that had been featured on CNN, CBS, none of those networks. So guys, Maya's giving you gold right now.
Appreciate it. Man, it's really just about starting and having that confidence, right? Because we all start from scratch. Like, it's easy for somebody to look at me now and say, well, Maya's done XYZ, or for somebody to look at you and be like, well, you have all the cool guests. But it's like, you had to start from episode 1.
Yeah. That's real. And advice when you start off, I think even when you're starting off in anything, to your point, not only just pitch your product, you have to really speak to who you are. And you have to speak and say, okay, this is me. This is my story. So guys, you're listening, you're trying to figure out how to pitch yourself, or you want to create a show, realize that people want to know who you are. So start off by, doing that first as well.
Yes, I am so glad you said that, because when people are building a business, I think they underestimate how important branding is. And branding is just all about the story that you're telling to create a connection. Like, if people vibe with you, they're going to rock with whatever you got going on. It's not about the podcast, the book, the course, the shirts, the whatever you're selling. It's like, do they vibe with you? Is there a connection? And people are going to connect to your story.
Hey guys, so let me take a guess. You're enjoying the show. And if that's right, please make sure that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast right now and tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _. I promise you this is going to help in amazing ways. And while you're at it, hit the 5-star rating and subscribe. With that being said, guys, let's get back to the show. Yeah, that's real. And I think about that is it's all about being authentic, which is so true too, right?
Exactly. Like, just be you.
So right now, currently, right, I feel like someone's listening to this episode because, all right, Maya's on the show. I don't even know how to start with my brand. I don't even know how to build my brand. Like, what advice would you give someone that has been struggling to put the pieces together to explain their purpose of their brand?
That's a good question. So one thing that I tell my clients to think about is ask yourself what annoys you. And for me, like, that's so important, because on the other side of what annoys you, you get to create the solution for that. Like, if people dressing terribly annoys you, you can probably create like a lifestyle clothing brand, right? And make sure that people look good. If bad weave annoys you, you could start selling quality hair. If people being unhealthy and overweight annoys you, you can be you can go onto the fitness industry or the weight loss industry. Like, think about what really annoys you, what makes you feel violated, what really bothers you in this world, and how you want to create the solution for it. And then think about your personal connection to that to that specific thing. Like, why does poor health bother you? Like, did somebody in your family pass away from it? Why does bad weave bother you? Do you feel like women should look better? Why does, dressing poorly bother you? Do you feel like people would have more opportunities if they showed up better in the world? So figure out what bothers you, what your story is around that, and how you're going to create a solution for it.
Man, I've never heard that, but I think like that is like flames. What you basically just did for everybody is, if you was ever trying to figure out how to tell your story, Maya just told you how to tell it. That's crazy, because so many people are like annoyed by a lot of different things, right?
Right. And that's fine, because when I used to teach people how to blog, I'm like, really good blog posts are just sophisticated rants of all the things that bother you, right? Like, talk about what makes you mad and then give people the solution to it. That's all it is. That's just good content right there.
That's gold. That's gold, without a doubt. So, like, for you, like, when you look at people working with Maya and people say, okay, I need her help, like, what do you say, like, your client base, who typically is like your customer that seeks you out?
Yeah, so my customer is usually, and they're usually an expert, like some type of trainer, consultant, coach, somebody that teaches something. They're teaching, they're educating their audience. So maybe like a fitness coach or a finance expert, anybody that wants to help somebody make a transformation in their life. And the issue that my clients deal with is that they're so close to their topic. They've been doing this for years, so they can only talk about it from an expert point of view. And if you're talking to a beginner as an expert, there's no connection. So I help them with their messaging. I have to teach them how to dumb down their messaging to connect with people. And a lot of people get the idea that if I want to be seen as an expert, I have to use all this expert jargon and I have to look smart. And it's like, if you focused on that, like, you're going to miss the right person, because people won't understand what you're talking about. So my job is to help them with their messaging, make a connection with the person that they want to connect with, and then also help them position their programs or their expertise as valuable so people will pay top dollar for it.
And that makes sense, because sometimes you want to make sure that you're not speaking from such a high level that people can't connect with you.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, you go through, like, community college, right? I just want to go back to the story. Like, you go through community college, you start learning different things about yourself. People are starting to pay you to do certain things. Like, as far as an educational standpoint, what was your next move, like, as far as, like, school?
Man, I really was just in school because, like I said, my parents are African. So that was just the expectation, go to school, graduate, get a good government job, which is crazy because our government keeps shutting down. So I'm glad I didn't go that route. Yeah. But I was just really in school to appease my parents. And then it was at one point where I was like, I really just cannot do this anymore. Like, I stayed longer than I really wanted to. And I remember I had a client who he had like an exhibit at a conference in Vegas, and I designed all of his exhibit work, and he invited me and my boyfriend at the time to go out to Vegas to just like see my work in person. So I was going to end up missing a couple classes, and I reached out to some of my instructors, and I was like, I'm going out of town for business. Can I take like some tests early or take it when I get back? And I remember this one instructor was like, no, you'll just have to fail the test and hope that like your highest test grade makes up for, the one that you get a 0 on. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm paying y'all and y'all can't give me any flexibility on my grades. Like, of course I take my education seriously, but it doesn't have to be so strict that like I have to fail something because I have something that's just as equally as important to me going on in my life. So I was like, I'm done with this. I never went back to college after that.
And because at that point, you're like, dude, I'm paying people that are not helping me become successful, and they're not helping me.
Right, exactly. I was like, and I'm paying for a place I don't even want to be at. Like, I'm going in debt for a place that I don't even want to be at. So I was like, I'm done with this.
So when you walked away from school, like, and you were on your own, and you're like, I'm not going back that route, from an emotional standpoint, like, what were some of the feelings you were having?
It was all over the place. I was scared as shit because I was so nervous to tell my parents, and I didn't tell them until weeks later. I had to tell them because me and my boyfriend were supposed to go there for Thanksgiving. So I'm like, obviously they're going to know because they're going to ask me about school. It was crazy. My mom freaked out. She was crying, all of that, but we eventually got over it. And then I felt a huge sense of relief. Like, dang, I have all of this time to really work on my business now. Like, I don't have to go back to this place. It was a huge sense of relief because I feel like I had a lot of anxiety around making the decision because it took me too long to make the decision. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling with making a decision that you know is the right decision for you, but you're not making it because how you think somebody else is going to react, just go with what you know is best for you, because it's just going to waste time and cause a lot of anxiety if you don't make the decision quickly.
You got to do what's best for yourself, because anxiety leads on to stress, and stress is something that you do not want to have when you're trying to be successful and create a business, let alone a brand.
Right. Especially as a creative, like a lot of what we do, it doesn't take a lot of physical labor, but it takes so much mental energy. And if you're filled with a bunch of anxiety, it's going to be hard for you to produce your best work.
So somebody's listening right now, they're trying to figure out how to shift, right? They may be going through what we're talking about. Like, what would Maya say to that person who's trying to shift that energy, and think in a positive direction?
That's a good question. I just posted a video about this. Like, when you're trying to transition into a new season, you should always consider the level of impact that you're going to make when you decide to take that next step. So when I actually decided to transition from being a designer and, moving on to being a strategist for my clients, I knew that I was going to make a bigger impact teaching my clients strategy than I would make an impact doing design. There was a point where I was making the highest level of impact as a designer, and I wouldn't have made as high as a level of impact as a strategist. But as I kept working on myself and, working on, being a better business coach and a better brand strategist, it was like, okay, it's time for me to make this shift, because this is where I make the most impact. So impact is the most important thing for me. So that's what I consider.
Oh, man, that's valuable information by far. So right now for you, like what's next for Maya?
Man, what's next for me? I think doing more in-person events. I just got done doing my in-person mastermind weekend called Impact Weekend. It's where I have 15 clients fly out and we do 2 days of training in a house here in Atlanta. So I just did my second one a couple weeks ago. Planning on the next one in June, and then also doing a 6-week program where I help experts launch their high-end service or online course or program. So I'm really excited to help people do that, because I love for women to make money. I love for their voices to be heard, and I feel really excited that I get to help them do that.
And it's real. I think what's so cool about what you're doing is that you have identified like who your customer is. And I think people struggle to identify who it is. So what's your advice on just that? How can you identify, okay, this person is who my ideal client is supposed to be?
That's a great question, because my team and I are so specific about who we work with. And it's interesting because a lot of the people that reach out to us that want to work with me, we have to turn down because we're like, you're not the best fit for us. And I think it just takes a lot of tweaking and paying attention and a lot of self-awareness of, where am I making the biggest impact, right? Like, I know who I can get results. And so to keep my level of integrity, to keep my reputation up, to keep the testimonials coming in, I only work with a certain person where I know I can get the absolute best results. But it takes years of refining and just being honest about who you enjoy working with. And I think pay attention to the clients that you hate working with and pay attention to the clients that you love working with. And when it comes to like narrowing down your niche, it's so important to repel as many people as you do attract. It's okay to push people away, and that's what you want to do.
And that's right. Like, so like, even if you're like, I'm glad you said that, because sometimes people, they want to just say whatever to appeal the masses. But when you say what's true to you, it's okay to make someone go, the opposite direction. Even for me, as I've launched and started my coaching business and some of my clients, that's so relatable, because we both can count on our fingers. Who was bad? Like, who was like, I cannot believe I just like decided to help this person. Because everybody might not have the same drive. They might not have the same hunger, the same passion, and they may not be ready to get the results that they claim they had wanted.
Right, exactly. I definitely want people who are hungry and they are serious, not somebody that's just like, I kind of sort of want to start a business. No, like, I want it to be somebody like, I've been doing this for years. I'm ready to make money from it. Where do we start?
And that shows right there that they're focused and they see that goal. versus kind of seeing it and wanting to be around it. They want to attract it. So that's 100% like accurate.
Absolutely. And you should want to work with people that you enjoy working with.
Yeah. You want to be excited that they're reaching out to you. Not like, they fly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. When you don't feel excited about it, that's how you know they're not a good fit.
It's like, oh no, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. Right. That's so real. So I'm gonna ask you the question that we ask like every single person that's ever been on this show, been on this podcast, and that is, if you were that current or that, that former student, or even you dropped out, and you're asking yourself the question of the show, school's over, now what? What advice would Maya give?
School's over, now what? Man, and I ended my school's over pretty early. School's over, now what? I think the advice that I would give is to just keep going. Don't give up, and be really clear on your standards and your expectations for the projects you want to work on and the clients that you want to work with.
100%. Because if you're not that real, if you're not 100% knowing what you want to do, it's going to be all over the place.
It is going to be all over the place, and we won't have it all the way figured out early on, but just go with what you know. Just try to be as clear and confident as possible.
100. So Maya, somebody right now wants to know more about you. Where can they find you? Just give us all the info, all your social networks so they can stay in touch.
Yes. So I'm everywhere at Maya Elious. I'm always on Instagram connecting with you guys, responding to my comments, responding to the DM. So at Maya Elious, MayaElious. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you there.
Great. You've been a pleasure to have. And I want to tell you, keep on doing what you're doing. You're making a crazy impact. I know a lot of people repost your content, share your content. So keep it up. We will keep our eyes on you, and we wish you the best. And for those of you listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.